Did someone pass up the green forms that everyone's collecting?
Okay. Good morning. This is the time and place for the Planning Hearing Officer meeting for July the 28th, 2010. My name is Vilya Zimataitis, and I will be the hearing officer for the first item on today's agenda. We have 3 cases on today's agenda, and all the plans and relative exhibits are posted behind me on the panels, directly behind. Today, all 3 cases involve a conditional use permit. If there is a conditional use permit on the agenda, which there are, under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.42 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a conditional use permit shall be granted if 4 required findings are present. They are as follows. 1, that the proposed use will be consistent with the elements and objectives of the general plan. 2, that the use and its associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare, or the environment. 3, that the use of facilities will not adversely affect or conflict with any adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding properties. And 4, that the adequate public and private facilities, meaning utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures, are or will be provided for the proposed use. The last item on today's agenda involves also a parking reduction. So applications for parking reduction permits shall meet the procedures and criteria set forth in sections 30.32070 and table 30.32b with qualifying project features. I would like to also inform everyone that the official proceedings of the Zoning Planning Hearing Officers meeting are recorded on tape as part of the public record. I will read the project description, which would be the first item on today's agenda is located at 902 Stewarton Way. It is a conditional use permit, case number PCUP 2010-007. It is being continued from the Planning Hearing Officer meeting of July the 21st. The applicant is Alan Malikian. The owner is Gagik Hovsepian, and the case planner is Jale Kiazand. The project description: an application for a conditional use permit to allow the construction of a new 5,510 square foot residence with a deck and a swimming pool on a lot with less than 80 feet in width, located at 902 Stewarton Way in the R1R Restricted Residential Zone, Floor Area District 3, described as Parcel B, parcel map number GLN 1179A. This time I will go over the interdepartmental staff comments for the project. First items on record are from the Public Works Department. There are standard conditions of approval for the project from the city engineer regarding a required grading and engineering plan, that the method of discharge of on-site draining shall be approved by the city engineer. The entire proposed driveway shall be constructed in accordance to code. Applicant shall remove and replace all broken, damaged existing street improvements along the entire frontage. Separate permits required for all work performed in the public right-of-way. Applicant shall comply with the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, which is NPDES. And last with that, a geotechnical and geological report be provided to assess the superficial stability of the slope and to make a determination as to whether mitigation measures are necessary. This last comment, I spoke with the city engineer, and this comment is a typical comment that is required during plan check. So a plan check would require geological studies in order to assess any type of slope issues and whether or not there are any mitigation measures need to be done. So this is not something during the discretionary review process. Next comment, Dean Hartwell from Integrated Waste. It just says that the project must provide locations for trash enclosures. The Maintenance Services Urban Forester does not have any comments. The Traffic and Transportation Administrator makes one comment that the driveway slope be required to be code compliant, which that will be addressed. Comments from the Fire Department include that the new home be fire sprinklered and that there be a landscape fuel modification permit obtained. Again, that's because of all the chaparral on the slopes above, which would be standard for this particular hillside neighborhood. The comments from Glendale GWP, which would be the power, standard conditions. There's electrical connection in the area. Power from Glendale Water and Power, backflow prevention devices required, separate irrigation and fire service connections, standard conditions. No comments from Community Development and GRA. No comments from Neighborhood Services. None from Environmental Management. So there are no issues from planning. We have 8 letters on record, which I will describe the letters and the individuals from who sent these after staff makes their presentation. So I'd like to turn the meeting over now to Jale Kiazan, who the case planner.
Good morning, hearing officer. The project before you with a case number PCUP 2010-007 located at 902 Stewarton Way is an application for a conditional use permit to allow the construction of a new 5,510 square foot single family residence with a new deck and swimming pool. The lot is less than 80 feet in width and is in R1R floor area ratio District 3. This project also consists of the demolition of the existing 2,540 square foot single family residence to allow the construction of the new house. The project site is a uniquely shaped lot, approximately 20,329 square feet in area and located in the R1R zone. The eastern half of the lot contains a graded pad on which the existing house is located. The western half of the lot slopes up steeply from the graded pad. The existing house is accessed via a driveway located on the funnel-shaped portion of the lot, which slopes up from Stewarton Way to the remainder of the site. The existing house will be demolished to allow for the construction of the proposed residence. The existing landscaping on the site is mostly native plants. There are no protected trees on the site. The general purpose and intent of the low-density residential designation of the general plan land use element is to preserve preserve and protect low-density residential neighborhoods while preserving open space and scenic resources to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare of the community. The proposed project is the construction of a new single-family residence, which is the intended land use in the land use element of the general plan. The project is proposed to preserve open space and scenic resources. To this end, it is designed with approximately the same footprint and the same location as the existing house. The new house will be situated on the existing graded path and as such will not involve significant grading and will maintain the existing topography of the site. The site is not identified as open space or park use in the open space or recreational element of the general plan. The proposed project is a two-story single-family house located in a single-family neighborhood and complies with the intent of the general plan, which designates this neighborhood as low-density residential. The project addresses the hillside design guideline with regard to the loss of natural hillside character, the transformation of landform through mass grading, and the loss of native vegetation. The proposed house is located on the graded portion of the lot. It does not involve mass grading, and the existing vegetation will be maintained with the new landscaping proposed. The existing house was constructed in 1973 and to date has not proven to be detrimental to the general welfare or environment. The new house will follow all of the applicable building codes which are designed for public safety. The site does not contain any protected trees and no significant grading is proposed. Hence, the project will not adversely affect the environment. Additionally, while the house has a flat roof instead of a pitched roof, the roof line follows the significant modulation of the facade. The proposed house follows the slope of the hill, stepping up from the street level towards the hilltop. The subject site is surrounded by residential uses. The R1R zone is intended for residential uses. The proposed project will not conflict with adjacent residential uses. Moreover, the proposed house will follow the footprint of the existing house to some extent and will not encroach into the required setback. Therefore, it will not impede the normal development of the surrounding properties. The proposal is for a single-family resident to replace the existing house, and hence it will not significantly impact existing public and private facilities. All of the required facilities and utilities such as gas, electricity, water, and sewer are already in place. The increase in the size of the residence should not significantly increase the use of the existing facilities. Public Works and Water and Power Department did not cite concerns regarding the provision of the utilities. The proposed project provides the required number of off-street parking spaces and exceeds the minimal amount of required landscaping and complies with the development standard contained in the zoning code. Stewarton Way is a local street designed to accommodate traffic generated in single-family neighborhood. Therefore, the project is consistent with the circulation element of the general plan. This concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Chiazon. Just to clarify, there's an existing home, there's an existing building pad, and so the conditional use permit is solely for the fact that the lot width is less than 80 feet. So they're proposing to demolish the existing home, and because it's considered new construction, typically in the R1R zone, it requires an 80-foot width. And so with that aspect aside, the CUP is for the lot width of less than 80 feet, but there are no other variances that are being requested at this point in time. So it's code compliant in all other respects. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you very much. Now, we received 8 letters. First letter comes from the Royal Canyon Property Owners Association, signed by E.N. Friesian, and it appears our concerns, just briefly, are with the scale, scope, size, and style of the proposed structure. So they are pretty much objecting to that and to the project in regards to scale, scope, size, and style. We also have a letter from Mr. Glenn T. Weber and Lynn S. Foster. They cited concerns regarding defective public notice. Now, I know that this case was originally scheduled for the 21st,
Correct.
and there was an error made in the square footage
Right.
of the project scope.
Correct.
The matter was continued from the 21st to today, 1 week later, and there were revised, corrected public notices sent to all of the property owners within 50 feet.
Exactly, yes.
And the poster was also changed, the public notice sign. So everyone has received corrected
Yes, must
for the
have.
today's hearing. Okay. So then there were also issues made. Statements, various concerns, again, regarding the scale scope. The previous issue listed in the public notice, statements in the application. Adequate information, public review, no story pulls place, conclusion. Okay. I noticed that in several of the letters, and I'm sure that during testimony this might come up again, so that way it's all answered. There are no story polls required, and again, from the zoning code perspective, I just wanted to let everyone know, for the CUP, story polls are not required. For the design review board, story polls will definitely be installed. Okay, so there are no story polls required for CUPs, though you will be seeing story polls if and when it gets to the design review board. We also have a letter from Mr. Stanton Cahan and Mrs. Harriet Cahan, again in opposition to the project. Comments made with compatibility, 3-car garage, landscaping, again voicing concerns regarding the previous notice and the date, and other various concerns. Another letter from Mr. Horondic Kajaturians and Gina Kajaturians as well. Very similar concerns regarding the compatibility. Another letter also from Mr. Richard B. and Carol A. Lee. Similar items, compatibility, concerns regarding the previous noticing issue, dates, story polls. Again, compatibility. Letter from Marco and Barbara Mastro, or Maestro. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing these names. Same concerns. Letter from Mr. Johnny Nigra. I'd read these before. Similar items. And Mr. Richard Peck and Mrs. Karen, I'm sorry, not Peck, Mr. Richard Pack and Mrs. Karen Pack as well. Concerns regarding mansionization, that the ultra-modern proposed structure is not compatible. Okay, so those would be the 8 letters that we received. I have no other aspects. I would like to point out, because of the letters, many of the comments deal with the architectural style, the size, the overall proposal of the project. These issues are very valid issues, and I understand your concerns, but these issues are typically addressed at the design review board stage because, again, the conditional use permit, what we're going for before right now, and this is the fact that the lot width is less than 80 feet. So in the R1R zone, a conditional use permit is required. And in the design review board, that's when we get into the architectural style critique and the size and compatibility. So I myself here in this public hearing officer meeting will not be addressing pretty much the architectural. I will be addressing any type of hillside design guidelines that might be applicable. But when it comes to an architectural discussion or a compatibility sake in the neighborhood, not typically, but that is, the design review board is the forum for that type of discussion. So, but I would like to, at this point in time, open up the hearing, first to be heard by the applicant, please.
Good morning. My name is Alan Malikian. I'm the applicant of the project. My address is 2255 Honolulu Avenue, Montrose, California. What we're proposing right now is to demolish the existing house and to construct a new two-story single-family house. And I'll go over the 4 findings, and then I'll try to, I just found out just before I start getting into the findings, I was notified about these concerns that the neighbors have about 2 weeks ago. Immediately, I sent an email out, and I was Mr. Nick. I recall the last name, but Freistein, Vice President, was kind enough to email me back, and we were trying to set up a meeting with the Homeowners Association. So before I begin, I want to assure everyone here that, and unfortunately the owner is out of town, but the owner's son is here, and I was assured that we will do everything we can prior going to the design review, meet with the Homeowners Association, listen to their concerns, make any modifications that it's necessary to meet their needs, if it's possible and if it meets everyone's concerns, and also provide the story polls and essentially do everything we need to do to make everybody rest assured that this project is compatible. And I will go over the findings, and then I'll describe a little bit about what we've done and how the location of the property, if we need to. I don't know if it's up to you if you want to hear that or not, but we can go over the findings to meet the CUP requirements. And then we can talk about the actual site location, the shape, and whatever. If we need to, we can talk about that if you need. As far as the 4 findings, how will the proposed use be consistent with the various elements and objectives of general plan? Well, the proposed use is a 2-story single-family house. The proposed use is within the existing R1R zone. The required CUP is being triggered due to the width of the existing property near the front yard. The existing subdivided lot is legal lot non-conforming condition that was subdivided with the remaining lots in the area. This existing is not unique to the neighborhood or the proposed new construction. The proposed project is construction of new again. The width is, even if we had to remove more than 50% of the framing, that we weren't even demolishing and building a new building, this CUP would have been triggered due to the circumstances of the property and the situation of the property that it's there. It is designed with approximately the same footprint of what it's there now. It is substantially set back from where it is now. I did a quick measurement yesterday. It's about 6.5 feet back what it is there right now as it sits. What we're proposing an average about 40 feet back from the south property line. So the most affected view that everybody sees as they see on the Google map that the existing building sits towards the south property line, the building is substantially pushed back. The garage area and the living room purposely is lowered to essentially 1 story because we are lowering the garage pad area approximately 5 feet, redoing the driveway so that the person who is immediately to the north of the house that is immediately north that view is maintained, if not better, than what it is, because that section is lower. The two-story building is pushed away from all the residents and we're pushing that against the hillside, against the uphill side. So the site planning, the massing is strategically planned based on what the site plan is right now, being that we're not touching the existing pad. We're not lowering anything, we're not raising anything. Why will the proposed use and its associated structure and facility not be detrimental to the public welfare? Well, the proposed single-family house is replacing the existing 2,500 square feet or so, one story. The current house, as it stands, does not meet any of the current standards of energy efficiency. The proposed single-family house will meet all the green standards that is coming up that will be required. We will be using and we will be applying for LEED certification and utilize many of the environmental friendly products, natural light, super efficient utilities, and recycled materials inside and out. The project addresses the hillside design guidelines with regards to the loss of the without the loss of the natural hillside character, the transformation of landforms through the mass grading and loss of the native vegetation. It's not proposed here. We're maintaining everything as is. The proposed house is located in a graded portion of the lot, and it does not involve mass grading and existing vegetation, as I explained it again. Additionally, while the house has a flat roof instead of a pitch roof, the roof line follows the significant modulations of the facade, and also it's following the contour of the hillside, both from south to north, from east to west, or west to east. Why would the proposed use and facilities not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of the surrounding properties? Well, the proposed building sits minimum of 14 foot 9 inches from north property line. It is actually situated in a way that the north-facing facade, the windows have been designed so that it does not impede into the privacy of the neighbor. All the facades and all the windows are either clear story, or the areas that we do have windows, they are blocked and protected from screening of the landscaping. The building minimizes the openings along the north, as I explained. Also, the east property, we're setting back 10 foot 9 inches. So it's approximately where it sits right now. It may be a little bit, I don't have the exact dimensions, but it may be actually pushed in a little bit. The south property is about 41 foot 8 inches from the south property line. The building minimizes the openings along the north. Also, the step-down effect above the garage has been purposely located to eliminate any view blockage for the north adjacent property. The proposed driveway will be lowered from the current slope, and finished floor of the garage will be set maximum 3 feet above street average curb height. And I'll go. Moreover, the proposed house will follow the footprint of the existing. So the existing footprint, if you can imagine, essentially about 800 or so square feet of this project sits below grade. No one is able to even see that. That's a storage and utilities and everything that is placed in, rather than using it as a mass on the second floor. The first floor is sitting on the pad, and it's going to be essentially the same, approximately the same footprint or the size, square footage. And the second floor, again, it's about 2,000 or so square feet of second floor, which is pushed against the hill and back from the south property line. Explain how the adequate public and private facilities such as utilities, landscape, parking spaces, traffic circulation measures are or will be provided for the proposed use. The proposed use will not need additional utilities, as it has all the amenities with the current single-family house. As it is being proposed, the proposed building shall be more efficient, thus using less energy from its current use. The existing hillside landscape will remain. In addition, we will add more landscaping along the north portion of the site to ensure any visibility issues that may occur after the development. The proposed parking is to code and will be lowered to maintain a finished floor garage to be maximum 3 feet above street level. In addition to the garage, we are also proposing a turnaround area which will control the circulation and back up into the street that is common with many of the homes in the neighborhood. As I mentioned again, I want to really emphasize the idea of being a LEED certified building. We will be using recyclable materials. The ample amount of fenestrations that we have uses natural lighting, so therefore it will reduce the amount of electricity that essentially none of the homes within the area can come to the level that this house will have. There are some concerns about or comments that came from Public Works. I was able to contact the soils engineer that was hired, and unfortunately his report is not done, but he has gotten the geologist report, the investigation that was done, and I have that report. It's not a complete report, but they need this to be able to complete their soils report. And with this, it's what it says is a site plan on a larger scale of what it's saying, the potential for fault-induced surface rupture is considerably nil. There's no liquefaction risk on the site. There's no grading proposed, so the existing deck is going to be used. The bedrock underlaying side will provide adequate foundation support for the proposed retaining walls and so forth. So based on their report, we have no problem as far as getting a green bill of health for the project, for the soils report and grading of the project. I don't know if you want me to address some of these issues that will be addressed during the design review and the meeting after that, as far as the scale and the compatibility and all of that. I don't know if you want to talk about that and get into that at this moment, or...
You're more than welcome to, because, well, again, this is your time. So however you wish to proceed.
Well, the scale of the project, that has come up many times. The scale of the project, again, the tendency is to look at the size of the building rather than understanding what it's being proposed. As I said, 800 and so square feet of this building is being placed below grade, that it will not be visible. The 3-car garage was brought up. The 3-car garage is set up as a tandem parking, so as far as what people will see would be essentially the same exact thing that they are going to be seeing from the street at this moment. So you'll see a 2-car garage door, but it is set back in. The elevation that it will be exposed to public for the garage will be approximately 4 to 5 feet from the adjacent side. The size of the building, again, that's the way that the building is situated. It's set back. That is very important to everyone to understand. It's not sitting where it is right now. So as you go back to the street lower than Sturton Way, south of the Sturton Way, you do see the house there. This building is going to be set back 40 feet or so from the south property line. The 2-story section of it, which most of the houses around there do have, are set back towards the northwest section of the property, the flat area of the property. As far as the style, there's no predominant style around that area. I mean, I can bring so many different pictures from that area that, and the style, having a pitch roof and a Spanish tile, is the only style, or you want to call it a style, that is around there. It is unique, it is different, and there's no doubt about it. It is a modern house within an area that was developed fairly recently compared to the other parts of Glendale. I would not fight or propose this type of a project in areas that are a lot more historical, a lot more traditional homes. In this area, there's a lot more current development buildings. So I don't want to get into the style of the project. That's something that we can discuss. I want the owner to be present. I want him to address some of his feelings and why we approach this and why we think that this is really going to be a gem within the neighborhood. And I know a lot of people disagree on that, but I do want to have the opportunity to sit down one-on-one with every one of them after this hearing and maybe the meeting that we're trying to set up with the Homeowners Association. And also within that period, we may actually put up the story pole if we need be, and then have a visual impact of the mass before we start getting into the style.
Yes, again, the discussion of style is meant for the design review
Yeah,
board,
exactly.
not for the planning hearing officer.
Okay. Any questions?
None at the moment. Will you, and I know that it's on the existing building pad, will you be creating a new driveway?
The driveway is going to stay exactly where it is. It's just going to get lowered, 5
Okay.
feet lowered,
So it's going to actually be lowered closer to the building pad or closer to the street?
closer to the street.
So, because when I was there taking a look at it had the double, like sort of brick ribbons around the side, and it had a diamond brick shape in the center.
Right.
It's sort of, and I guess it's
Essentially, you see that photo over there, the photo of the driveway. Just take the garage level and lower that approximately 5 feet from where it is. So
this bump right
exactly.
here
It's going to
will
get
then be lowered.
flattened.
Flattened.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the main purpose of that is to lower that section, to put the living there, so that the addition that we want to do over the garage, if we would have kept it where it is and just at the garage, it was essentially completely blocking the view of the north property. So that's one of the main purposes of that, obviously, to ease the driveway. And that's a huge expense that I think the owner is taking, knowing that that particular direction is the view corridor of what it's being. It's actually southeast direction is the view that it's predominant view.
Thank you. No, just a few other questions, if you don't mind sharing with me. I'm actually going to move this closer somewhat. I'm going to block this one. Right now, the building, it looks like it sits around 5 feet from the property line, more or less.
Do you want me to come and kind of mark where it's actually going to go?
Well, and I'm just looking in relation to the site plan. So the building is going to be set back.
Absolutely, yes.
What you mentioned, 40 feet or so?
Approximately 40 feet in average.
Is this infinity pool going to be approximately
It's
where
going to
the
be there,
building
and
is
it's going
right
to
now?
be actually the edge of the deck is going to be almost like a foot higher than the grade or so. So the deck, that pool, the edge that people are going to see, it's approximately about a foot of the edge, exactly.
This edge of the pool is going to be 1 foot lower than where the building sits right now?
It's the contour as the contour cuts down, the edge of the pool, the way the contour is over there.
Where you mean where the and
The-
I'm gonna,
the slope-
because
the
I'm asking
slope of the-
slope
exactly.
slopes down so that it slopes down into these two properties below it.
Exactly. So that section, that pool, the face, as you would look up, what you would see is approximately a foot of a wall around the edge of the, so essentially no one's going to see that's what I'm going to, that's what I'm trying to explain. So as you look up, you're only going to see a 1 foot of a retaining condition around the pool area.
Okay. Again, you know, since this is a planning here, I mean, the case is only for a new single-family
Right.
home on a lot less than 8 feet.
Right.
These issues, you know, we can take a look at this, but the engineering is, again, I'm assuming your engineers are going to be able to engineer this pool
Oh,
that
yeah.
is going to sit there.
Absolutely.
So, now,
Doesn't sit
Those-
1 feet away from the property line. It sits 1 feet above grade. The
above
retaining.
grade. Okay, so
So-
the pool, so the wall that's going to
So
be
it's
visible
about
is
this
that
much you're going to see. So as it comes up, you're going to see about that much of a wall. It
So the
doesn't
slope of the wall and then about a foot.
exactly,
A foot
and then
of the pool.
the pool starts. So essentially, no one's going to be able to see the pool other than a foot of wall.
Now, there's an existing retaining wall.
The existing retaining wall right now, as it sits, based on the survey that I quickly saw yesterday, it's about, say, about 18 inches high.
So and this is the one that's adjacent on the west
We're
side.
gonna push that back. We'll create about a 3-foot retaining wall.
How
or so.
far? A 3-foot retaining wall? And how far are you pushing it back from the existing building?
The existing building, actually, on the site plan, you may be able to see that. I don't know if you have the actual site plan. I know you guys had a copy of that.
Shelley, is there an existing site plan?
I have it here. The site plan shows clearly where the existing dash line is. It's just cleaning up the irregularity of that retaining wall, and we're... So if you can see that heavy dashed line is outlining what the existing retaining wall is.
Okay, so this dash line that's shown
Is the
here
existing retaining wall,
is the
exactly.
existing retaining wall around the existing home, correct?
Exactly.
So and the home building footprint would be around in this area as well.
Exactly.
So you're pushing the building back this much,
Exactly.
putting in a wall, a
Deck
retaining wall
almost
here.
level with the grade, so no one essentially, it's not a deck that it's going to be floating up in the air or it's going to be lowered into the ground that we're going to have a substantial dirt. So most of the issues with a lot of the pools that come to the edge of the properties are the retaining wall that it gets exposed from the south side. In this particular case, we're only going to have this much of a
retaining wall.
space.
Because I see here on your cross section,
Right.
your deck
And you see
is
the
going to be
line.
is going to be higher than where your 3-car garage is.
And the 3-car garage is going to be lower than the existing deck area. It's almost 5 feet lower.
So where the existing where the existing deck or where the existing building pad? Then
Existing building pad and the existing deck is essentially the same line.
Okay. All right. I think that answers my questions for the time being. So though
I'll be here.
I would like to possibly invite you up if
Sure,
other
sure,
additional
absolutely.
questions come in.
Absolutely.
Brings us to, I'd like to open it up. Have a number of speaker cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. However, there's a number of speaker cards that you do not wish to speak. Is that correct? So you would just like to go on record that you were here, you were present, that, and then it does say whether or not you're in opposition or in favor of the project. Okay, so with that said, so we do not have as many speaker cards as we thought, or who actually wish to speak. Okay, first person as given to me by Mr. Weber. First person is Mr. Richard Lee. And if you don't mind stating your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Richard Lee, and I'm a Glendale resident, 925 Penn Shore Terrace. I have a handout here for the hearing officer, and I have several copies.
Please.
I don't know.
If you don't mind handing one to me and then one to the case planner, and forgive me, there you go. Great. Thank you so much.
And how much time do I have? Excuse me.
The comments, 3 minutes? 3 minutes.
Minutes. Okay. I've lived in Fen Shore Terrace now for 31 years. There's other residents on our block that have lived there more than 30 years, but the average for all the homes on Fen Shore Terrace is 20 years. And, of course, you've spoken of the number of square feet issue. It first came out at 4,050. We went to the Planning Commission office. Right on top, as you can see on the plan, says 5510. So that 4,050 was published in the paper, published on the property, published in the newspaper. At any rate, we were then, we still asked for a reconciliation of why the difference. We were told we'd have an answer that afternoon. We got a call 6 days later saying that the 4,050 was an error. So, at any rate, the whole process seemed rather mystifying and puzzling. At any rate, especially since the fact that the planning department has several layers of management, and for this error to go past everyone was unfortunate. And then I took some pictures from the backyard of the homes just immediately beneath, and as you can see, here is a picture of what you see now from their backyard, which is basically, because the house is set back some, it's a one-story, you can see the roof tiles, and that's about it. But then we had someone superimpose what the new home would look like, and that's what the neighbors below will see in the future. Maybe I'll give that. Look at that. I think some of the most important things I want to mention are regarding the staff report. It appears as though the staff report may not have taken into consideration zoning code section 30.11.040. Now, I just want to read, that's 30.10-040, A, paragraph 1. Every discretionary decision made by the City Council, along with city boards, commissions, and administrators related to development of an ROS and R1R zone shall take into consideration the following. It lists 5 different considerations. I'm only going to read one. Development shall be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood in terms of size, scale, bulk, mass, roof line, orientation, setbacks, and site layout. I merely want to put that into the record. So that's the purpose of that section. There's another section that I would like to talk about.
If you don't mind wrapping up your sentiments, because unfortunately your time is up. So if you don't mind wrapping up your sentiments, please.
Sure. Another thing that it's very important to know is that under the definitions in the zoning code, it says the story definition talks about the fact that that a basement, cellar, parking garage, or unused floor area should not be considered in the determination of whether it's a third story, that is the basement and the lower level. Mm-hmm. It's my understanding that 3 stories are not permitted. So the problem is that in that basement level there is a theater and a wine cellar, habitable, and therefore we believe that that's would be considered a third story. And also, we feel that the planning staff did not take into consideration or calculate properly the 3-foot rule regarding the lower level as to whether it's considered a third story in that respect. I just also want to point out, if you take a look at where the home is, that's a 1-story home. The house next to it is a 2-story. That 2-story house, you see how much further back it is set to allow privacy in the properties below. Therefore, the lot that this home is being proposed on is, in essence, a one-story lot, because anything more than a one-story house would obviously, as you can see in that characterization there, that's going to take away all of the privacy of all of the homes below. We had a meeting at our house. 21 people showed up. Everyone was opposed. Everyone signed a petition. And you'll see that in the document. You'll see copies of all the petitions, and as well as the letter of support for the opposition from the Homeowners Association. So I encourage you to take a look at that. We feel that the CUP hearing is out of order. The CUP hearing should come after the design review has been decided. And especially since the fact that with all of this that went on with the square feet, plus the fact there's no story poles, how can we know what is appropriate? How can we give you proper public input if, in the absence of story poles and in the absence of the confusion of the number of square feet?
Okay. Well, I have to ask you to conclude.
Okay.
So thank you.
so
Thank
much.
you for your comments. Thank you. I appreciate you coming in with your photo simulation. I'm just wondering, did the person who did this take into account that the building was going to be also set back? Because I know that the building, the two structures that you showed or you pointed to during your comments, the home to the west is actually set back, and so essentially the proposal is actually going to be even further set back than the home to the west.
Well,
So-
west is the hill. Maybe you're speaking of the house to the east.
To the east, yes. I'm sorry, to the east.
That's a two-story house.
So it would essentially, and I don't want to get into this, but you know, I'm concerned because I've also seen many photo simulations in my record, and it's sometimes really difficult to do an accurate photo simulation when, you know, depending on the angle, depending on the setback and whatnot. So
Lady that helped me.
So-
the young lady that helped me with that is here. She is going to speak.
Okay,
and
great.
At that time, we can let you.
Perfect, thank you. That has a question for the architect now. Is there at any point in the plans where there is a three-story structure? Because I know from our zoning code, you can't
No,
have...
there is no 3 stories. We originally had a theater, and that was not allowed. We did have a wine cellar, and basically the uses were eliminated.
Okay.
The location of that as a definition in City of Glendale Municipal Code as a storage, mechanical, or anything other than a usable space, considering that a theater is a usable space, then we were not aware. What we were looking at was that as long as it's within or below grade, then it's not considered as a story. But I was clarified, Mr. Howard Malis clarified that, and we corrected from that point on.
Okay, forgive me, since this is the first time I'm hearing of this. So the basement plan right here, that home theater and the wine cellar?
That's a completely an old set of plans. That's a completely.
Okay.
That's a plan that I've given. It's not a home theater.
Okay.
The home theater was not in the. Actually, let me see.
Okay.
And that was a discussion that we had with with staff in regards to that, right?
Okay. Well, that gives us new information, and
Essentially, the space is the same, but we're not using it as a theater.
Come on, we're not all stupid.
okay. And I'm sorry. Forgive me. This is a
if-
planning hearing, and we appreciate.
If the
we
home
underst-
theater is being used, we would have to provide utilities and other amenities there that has to go through the permit process. But when we don't do that and you use that as a storage, and that's what it is, and there's no amenities or anything, we're going to be proposed for that.
Okay.
space.
If I know according to the zone, so that particular area that's shown right now is addressed as a home theater and the wine cellar will those retaining walls, will those
You guys
walls
had
be
the
there?
updated set of plans.
We do have the updated set of plans?
You had it months ago.
Forgive me, I'm going to actually take a 3-minute break because there appear to be plans that staff has that we are not up. So 3 minutes, please, and we'll be putting in a recess. Thank you for your patience. We appreciate that. In light of the new information regarding the... Oh, we're still on recess on TV. I apologize. Sorry, too. But at least everyone will be nice and composed for the TV then. Okay, now we are back. We're back from recess. Thank you very much for your patience. In light of the new information regarding the wine cellar / basement, what we would like to do is to continue the matter to address the plans. I think it's also to give you the opportunity to take a look at the plans as well as staff and to confirm that everything meets code, or if it doesn't meet code, that it be addressed as well. However, I know that many of you have come here to testify, have taken time out of your busy schedules to do so. We'd like to give this opportunity to you to provide your testimony. So your testimony would be on record. You would be more than welcome to come back at the continued hearing date in light of the revised plans and make additional further testimony. But that way at least we have your record, or we have on record your comments today. So with that said, the next item, and if you wish to pass today, just please, feel free to let me know and just say I'll pass and say my comments for the next date. The next individual is Mr. Nick Friesen.
Good morning.
Good morning. Oh, and your name and address for the record, please.
Nick Friesen, citizen of Glendale, residing at 1111 Old Phillips Road, and the vice president of the Royal Canyon Property Owners Association. You have, as a matter of the record, our letter wherein the board at its last regular meeting unanimously moved and passed a motion to oppose this project on the basis of its scale, scope, size, and style. Recognizing that those are more appropriately taken up by the Design Review Board, I would like to make a couple of other comments that I believe are appropriate. One is, first off, I'd like to start with a commendation to Mr. Malekian for doing an excellent job of maximizing the available legal space on which to build. But that brings us to a problem. Based on the earlier information that we had, cursory glance not only at the square footage, but at the heights. It's my understanding that we have a height limitation of 32 feet. Yet, one of the dimensions shows 32 feet 1 inch. Now, that's only 1 inch, but that's not legal. In another dimension, it shows exactly 32 feet, but it's measured from a different baseline than the rest of the property. So I would suggest to the staff that you be very careful in checking the dimensions. Second point, staff says minimal or no grading. Yet, we see that there's a requirement to take and lower the driveway by some 5 feet. Whether that's minimal grading or not, I don't know. That's up to the experts. Also, the staff doesn't address the issue of excavation for the garage and whether it's a theater, wine cellar, whatever, storage area, basement under the house. The final, which is very personal for me, is the location of the pool. It's personal for me because where we live, the neighbors above us both have pools. They both wanted to utilize to the maximum extent their property. As a result, their pools are built at the top of the slope, and then their property is 50% of the slope down to our property, and in one case, we're looking at the underside of a deck. This pool is right at the top of the slope. And it just seems to me that it's put too far out. It should be closer to the house. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Friesian. Next person to speak is Mr. William Fonet.
Hey, that's correct.
Thank you. Good.
Did good.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is William Fonet, F-O-N-N-E-T. I live at 1660 Arbalest Drive in Glendale. And I had an objection regarding what appears to me to be defective notice of the hearing. So perhaps it's fortuitous that you're going to continue it anyway. I will shall I offer one directly to you?
Please. Thank you.
I checked the file on Friday afternoon. Did I get a copy date stamp? File stamp? Thank you. This is your.
Okay. Would you mind starting the time over again,
Yeah.
Mr. Combs? Thank you.
Basically, I reviewed the file on Friday afternoon. I checked. I was looking for whether everything was properly noticed and so forth. And I did not see a timely proof of publication in the file, nor did I see affidavits regarding service by mail. When I say affidavits, filled out, completed affidavits. Nor did I see a affidavit of posting of the property of the notice. Now, I think that probably was done, but I don't know that. So I think it's up to the hearing officer to establish, in fact, that these were properly served and noticed. But the publication was not timely. It has to be at least 10 days prior to the date of the hearing. The publication date, I believe, was July 19. That's not 10 days. So basically, I'll wait for my stamped copy, and that's all I have to say.
Just for the record, the items, and I would like to wait for Shanaz. I know that they were either sent out the 12th or the 14th by mail. We have all the affidavits here in the office. Our administrative staff keeps the affidavits, and there is no affidavit of posting. The city clerk actually inspects all of the public notices that are posted on the property. So they are the ones, the city clerk's department actually visually makes a field check that it is properly posted. So
I noticed in the file.
Just for all cases, that's the it's not just this particular case, but.
Thank you. I noticed in the file there was a certification of mailing on July 5, 2010.
That was for the
That
previous
was for the
erroneous
previous
one.
But that
Correct.
certification does not appear to be complete and effective. There's
Okay.
a proper affidavit.
Right. There's a new one.
That's
for
my
the-
comment.
Okay, but thank you for your comments.
So my question now, is this going to be properly noticed, properly published?
Well, no, again, this particular hearing was properly noticed and properly published. If we continue it to a date certain, then it's a date certain. This will not be remailed. However, obviously, everyone is on record that, this case is being continued to a date certain. So everyone
Let me
will
see if
have...
I can make this as clear as I can. There's defective publication of the notice of the hearing for this date. It wasn't done at least 10 days prior to the hearing date.
Okay, and again, I will, Shanaz, would you mind checking, please, to let me know? And again, this is staff notification. Notices are mailed well before 10 days. It was, ascertained by the city clerks that it was,
Okay.
properly posted as well.
Say it one more time, and then that's it. I'm
Okay.
going home.
That's fine. Yeah.
The
and-
publication wasn't properly published at least 10 days prior to the hearing.
Okay.
It's defective publication, defective notice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Double check. The next speaker is Ms. Lynn Foster.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Lynn Foster. I live at 1670 Arbalest Drive in Glendale. I have a couple of points to make. One is that notwithstanding the fact that the reason the CUP is necessary is that the width is below standard, as you noted, we still do, conditional use permit can only be granted if you first decide, among other things, that the proposed use will be consistent with the various elements of the general plan, which includes the hillside design guidelines, which talks to mass, scale, and size. So I think it is appropriate here, perhaps not so much for style, but for mass, scale, and size, it is a finding that you have to affirmatively make in order to grant a CUP. And I think one of the big problems here is that this neighborhood was designed, as many of them are around Glendale with the hills, so that single-family homes gave each neighbor a certain amount of privacy, and that was a considerate way of people getting along with each other. Now it seems that oftentimes a whole neighborhood is being kind of flipped by somebody putting up a second story, which may or may not interfere with someone else's view, and also looms over and overlooks the neighbor below. In this case, although the applicant, talks of his consideration of the northern neighbors, the poor southern neighbors are faced with nothing but windows and doors, plus decks, plus a swimming pool. And I'm the one that did that photo representation there. My husband's an engineer. We did it the best we could. However, I think it's incumbent upon the applicant to show what it would look like. As a matter of fact, I think that there's an ordinance on that which says that requests shall contain, among other things, drawings to scale of land and existing and or planned buildings. Now, there's nothing like that there. It doesn't show what that's going to look like to those neighbors. If that's wrong, if the one that I did is wrong, then show us how it really will look, because otherwise people have no ability to determine whether it's going to be detrimental to their use, like destroying their privacy, which is another thing that you have to decide it won't conflict with adjacent uses. Story poles are the best way to do that. I addressed the City Council last night about story poles in advance of CUPs. It makes no sense whatsoever to have story poles come later when someone's been given an entitlement to put this house on that lot, even though tweaked by the Design Review Board perhaps. Don't like that color, move this 6 inches that way. Once the CUP is granted, a house of that mass and scale is allowed to be put on that lot. and it makes no sense to have story poles come after that decision. The City Council was in agreement with me, and I think that they will be modifying the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Glenn Weber.
My name is Glenn Webb,
Oh, I'm sorry.
1570
I apologize.
Arbalest
It is
Drive
Glenn.
in Glendale. And I just want to reiterate what the previous speaker, who also happens to be my wife, mentioned. It is absolutely embodied in the code, as well as state law, that when CUPs are granted, that these elements of the general plan must be considered and a positive finding must be made. Our position is that this use, the proposed use, which is a 5510 square foot house on this lot with this scale and bulk and mass, is not consistent with the general plan. It's being built in an area of 2,300 square foot homes. It's more than twice the size of the average and median homes in the neighborhood. And that is, we believe, not consistent with the general plan. The general plan specifically embodies these requirements, and they are explicitly spelled out in the ordinance that was passed by the City Council when they adopted the Hillside Design Guidelines, the Hillside Ordinance, and the elements of the general plan. So they are explicitly called for in the general plan. They're not something that you have the option, with all due respect, to put off to a design review board. I also want to reiterate the fact that when a CUP is granted, this is an entitlement. It entitles this developer, this owner, to build that specific design, of that specific size, on that specific lot, with all those specific plans. It's an entitlement. And it is perhaps impossible, even for the design review board, to stop it once the CUP has been granted. And there's a lot of precedent in state law that shows that very clearly. Once the CUP is granted, that's it. They can change the color and the type of stucco and the tile on the roof and things like that, but the entitlement to build is there once the CUP is granted. So we think it has to be done with a great deal of care. We also think that the drawings and the plans and all the information submitted by the developer before these hearings should be checked and verified by the staff. This has not been done. It's not been done on this project. It's not been done on previous projects that we've been involved with. I mean, it's been shown 2 or 3 times today already, errors that were made, renotices that had to be given. I looked at the square footage calculations. They don't appear to be correct to me. I believe that the square footage of the house is understated, for example. There's a lot of misleading statements in the applications, especially with respect to California green building codes, with respect to LEED certification. I'm a scientist and engineer. I'm an expert in solar energy. I reviewed the California green building codes with respect to this design as submitted. I reviewed the LEED certification requirements of this design with the information available, sketchy as it is. There's no solar electric proposed for this house, specifically dealt with in the California green building code. There's no solar thermal with respect to this house. So again, specifically dealt with in the California green building code. There is excessive glass on the south side of the property. Again, explicitly dealt with not only in LEED certification, but with the California green building code. The most important factor in LEED certification, the size of the structure. This structure is more than 2 times the size of the existing house. So when you tear that down and you're looking at LEED, you consider that. There are specific factors required for the applicant to stand up and say that the energy requirements of this house are smaller than a house that is less than twice the size, less than half the size. And it's just simply wrong.
Thank you. If you don't mind, 15 seconds to wrap up your thoughts.
Okay.
Then.
All right.
That's
Again, I'd reiterate about the story poles, but the most important consideration to us as a public is to get accurate and complete information, and we have not received that on this project.
Thank you. Mr. Al Hoffman.
Yeah.
Your name and address for the record, please.
My name, Al Hoffman, a resident of Glendale. I live at 3252 Castera Avenue in Montecito Park. I am the president of the Glendale Homeowners Coordinating Council. We have an organization of 19 homeowners associations. We do not meet in the months of July and August, So I have sent out an email voting process. I've received 7 back, all supporting Royal Canyon in their opposition of this. And when I get this completed, I expect to have it in 2 weeks. The letter will go to the City Council with our vote. And I'm sure that it'll be totally in opposition to this project. As said earlier, the people, you've got the information that the City Council got last night. Mm-hmm. And at the City Council meeting, they stated, we probably have to look over the whole process. The fact that the CUP is done, and it happens all the time to get a CUP, and then the Design Review Board says, oh, well, they got the CUP, and it goes. They can't stop it. We've got to reverse the process. And I would encourage you, the City Council stated last night, several, we need to re-look at this whole process of the hillside ordinance and the procedure for getting these done, because they recognize once the CUP is approved, it goes. And we got to reverse that. We got to have the design review first. And I would continue this CUP hearing until that design review is completed and all the people get their objections in. The architect says it'll be a gem in the neighborhood. You know, all these people believe that are going to look at this, they consider it a gem. That's far-fetched among all the other things. And the fact that this lower floor is not going to be a theater and all this stuff, we know very well that can be added later. There's no way to stop that. You know, they can do whatever they want with that supposed storage area. We know that's just, you know, getting it by. And that's not right. And architects need to consider, and the owners need to consider their neighborhood. But is that a good neighbor? Putting something like that in front, all these people have to look at that. Is that being a good neighbor? No, absolutely not. I've got an interesting article that came out of the paper that I'm going to give the architect that's up in your area.
Mr. Hoffman, you have to speak into the microphone. I'm sorry.
I just gave him an article about this atrocious building they built in Montrose, an office building. When I saw that, the first thing I thought it was an office building when I saw the drawings at Richard Lee's house. And I called Hassan, I wrote Hassan Haghani an email the next day. I said, what a disappointment that the planning staff let this go as far as it did. It shouldn't have even gotten this point with this kind of thing in that neighborhood. Totally out of character of the neighborhood. So I recommend that you continue this till after that, and we'll work with the City Council and try to get that done, because we need to do that. We need to change the process. Thank you.
Ms. Carol Lee.
My name is Carol Lee. I live at 925 Pinshore Terrace, and I would just like to go on the record as saying that the house, as it is proposed to be built right at this time, I believe that all of the property owners, the homes be looked on the south side of the property, that the property values would drastically go down in value. And that's all I have to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Barbara Mastro or Maestro? Mastro. Okay. Thank you.
Barbara Mastro, a resident at 1066 Old Phillips Road. We've resided there for 35 years, very happily and very proudly. I dispute that this project is a green project. How can we take an existing approximately 2,500 square foot structure and a pool, I don't know if anyone's mentioned there's an existing pool there, demolish it and haul away tons and tons and tons of debris? Where will that debris end up? If it was truly a green project, a lot of those materials would be recycled. And I don't also understand how a structure approximately more than twice the size will use the same amount of energy. And so I'm disputing it on the fact that it is not a green project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Wing Chong. Mr. Wing Chung?
Good morning. My name is Wing Chong. I live at 925 Kilmany Lane, Glendale, for more than 35 years. The subject property right now is talking about around more than 5,000 square foot. I think it's not right. The reason at the time, say 40 years ago, the surrounding, all the tract house is built by Scottfield Corporation. And at that time, I do believe the city has some kind of opinion or idea what kind of house to be built. And I think the majority is a one-story building, not the around 2/3 is a one-story and 1/3 is a 2 stories. And this time, this one is, I feel, is too much. Secondly, talking about the subject property, right now probably is a modern building, looks nice. However, it's not in the residential area. It looks like an office building. To me, I feel it that way. And also because the existing houses all around the area all are gable roof. You look at pitch gable roof, Spanish style. And the new one, it is like a flat roof. The flat roof normally is using for commercial building or some other multiple residence use. The garage they're talking about basically like a substituting parking type, like an apartment type. And also because the excavation, I do believe with a lot, particularly like near the pool area, basically at the time when Scottfield developed the area is cut and fill, all the new construction and cut and fill. That particular area more likely is a fill area. So I am worried about that. The excessive excavation will create some kind of problem, particularly the safety for the property below this subject property. And I feel that it's supposed to have a soil engineer to investigate thoroughly around the area first instead of design the building. And somehow somebody have to ensure the safety of the property below this subject property. And the last one I have is just people you just mentioned, or the architect just mentioned, their basement will treat as a some areas are like a storage. Who is going to ensure there will be a storage? Who is going to enforce the usage? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chung. Next, Ms. Harriet Cahan? Cahan.
Hi. My name is Harriet Cahan. I live at 921 Whitehaven Terrace in Glendale. I've lived there for 35 years. Basically, I just want to say my husband and I have written a letter. We hope that you will review it carefully, and we hope that the code is enforced. There is no reason at all to give a variance. Glendale has fought for years to get hillside ordinances, and then when it comes to somebody wanting to do a little something, they fight it. They don't obey the ordinance that's there. Anyway, I hope that you will get the new information to us on a very timely basis and get it online in a very timely basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Haronde Kajaturians? You do, oh, I'm sorry, it says that you do not wish to speak, correct? Okay. Ms. Mariette Keeler does not wish to speak. Mr. James Eady does not wish to speak. Mrs. Janet Eady does not wish to speak. Ms. Leanne Reynolds also does not wish to speak. Mr. Marco Mastro, thank you, does not wish to speak. And Ms. Genia Kajaturians as well does not wish to speak. Now, forgive me, there are a few cards that I received. I'm going to put those together. Ms. Margaret Hammond, I believe you do wish to speak. Oh, yes. Okay.
I wouldn't be here otherwise. I've got better things to do. This is important. Thank you. My name is Margaret Hammond. I'm a 50-year resident of this city, and I have fought for many years, for instance, for Hillside Ordinance and various things, for the quality of life in this city. That's what it's about, why neighbors come here. By granting this CUP before the design review board hearing gives entitlement. It's like putting the cart before the horse. The lot is less than 80 feet, and granting this CUP would enable a house of more than double 5,500 feet when there's now a 2,400 foot. That's not going to affect something in the area, air quality or whatever. Also, the pool is too close to a neighbor's. After all, they have a right to their privacy. Why should they have a pool? I have pools. I know the noise and so forth, how the whatever travels. And by this pool being that close, I think it is not good neighbors. And also, of course, I don't think the house is compatible at all with the neighborhood. I think it's completely out of compatible. And I think that story poles are a necessary requirement per the Hillside Ordinance. I fought for those story poles, and we had hoped that that would end this kind of thing happening, that we wouldn't have to end up in arguments and so forth with our neighbors. By having those story poles, everybody could see what was going to be happening there. I am presently suffering the consequences of storage space being allowed in basements. I live on the hillside. Everybody had what they called, quote, unquote, storage spaces that have now been converted to apartments. 7 of 10 houses on my street, which I keep talking to neighborhood services about. And why does it affect my quality of life? Because I live on a hill with narrow streets up near Forest Lawn, parking on only one side. We can barely pass each other, and the streets are completely packed with parking, with cars, congestion, and it causes problems amongst neighbors, arguments, discussions, and so forth. Again, why? Because what was to be storage has been turned into living quarters. Oh no, it's only for wine cellars or whatever, but in the long run it becomes living, as do garages when they're built. So that is the reason I think this CUP should not be granted until after the Design Review Board hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hammond. Appears that I have one last card, Mr. Habut. I'm sorry. I guess I'm Harut Habsavian.
Yes, hi. Hi, my name is Harut Hovsepian. I currently reside in 826 East Orange Grove Avenue in Burbank, California, but look forward to being a resident at 902 Sturton Way with my family. My mother and father are the applicants, and I'd like to say it's nice to meet everybody, and pleasure. I just wanted to put, maybe in the limited time I have, kind of a face to this house and what kind of a home it might potentially be. Because my parents couldn't make it today, unfortunately, and so kind of representing my family. But we're just good old Americans who love this country. And my mom got PharmD at USC, and she's a pharmacist. My brother is in architecture school currently, ironically enough. My dad is a civil engineer, and I studied molecular cell and developmental biology at UCLA, and I'm currently a student at USC's Keck School of Medicine. Just got my MPH. I'm very happy about that, and I just found out Monday morning that I'm going to be an intern at the White House with President Obama, so some exciting stuff. And so that's just who we are. We have a good education, really worked diligently on this project for many years with the architect, and I was present in some of the conversations that my father and Alan had, and they always voiced the concern of the community and the neighbors, and we're strong believers that a community is an essential thing that should be kept strong, and we would love to be a productive part of this community and would love to contribute in any way we can, and because we feel that that is a vital part of any city. And so I will be here after the meeting if anybody would like to meet with me, speak with me. I have my card, my contact information, and we'd love to just work with everyone in the community so we can be a productive part of this community. And thank you. And if you have any personal questions for me, I will stay as long as you want, and we'll meet at any time, anywhere, to make this a satisfactory endeavor for all parties. And I thank everybody for their time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There is usually time for rebuttal for the applicant. Mr. Malikian, do you wish, and James, how many minutes? 5 minutes for rebuttal.
I'll try to be brief. Try to address some of the concerns and questions that continuously have come up. Going down the list, as far as the photo simulation or representation of the renderings and if we can and cannot do, absolutely, we will do. That is the process that we go through for the design review. I truly believe that by use of the latest technologies of three-dimensional modeling and all the surveys that we have, we can generate the proper renderings that show. In addition, we will do the story polls, so everyone can rest assured that some of the privacy issues that has come up with the neighbors, what they have right now currently is a lot more significant than what we'll have at the end. That would be our goal, to satisfy everyone and make sure everybody's comfortable with what is being proposed. We're not going to force this in. We're going to work with the neighborhood to make this thing happen. As far as the CUP granting prior or DRB prior to CUP, that's something that I don't want to get into. It's more of a code issue, and I believe, my personal opinion is, if a project is not compatible zoning-wise, why should you review the design? First, the building needs to meet the current code, and then look at the design. So that's how I would see it, and I agree with how the process is going, but that's not me to judge on that. As far as the green project and recycle and excessive glass and size of structure and all of that, it's not just solar. Getting a green building and LEED certification, the solar is one component of that. As far as being a green or recycled, no one has even gotten the report from us on how we're going to be proposing or what it's going to happen. The existing structure is going to be demolished. All the materials are going to be recycled. All the framings that are going to be existing are going to be tried to reuse in the existing structure. We're not saying that the existing proposed building is going to be it's going to have the same amount of energy as the existing, but it will be a lot more efficient compared to the size of the building that it's being built. So what we're building, it's going to be a lot more efficient than in ratio to what the building is right now and as it stands. That's the purpose of it. And there's a lot more other components of the LEED certification than just the solar, electrical, or the size of the structure. As far as the comment in regards to Mr. Al Hoffman's comparison to the structure, I think he missed to note the project that actually I did right within the neighborhood, that there was a big up in arms against the project, and no one appreciated it. It was the old dry cleaners. And after I was done, I actually got a personal call from many of the neighbors that they were very satisfied with the project and how it came about. So I think if we're going to come up with some examples, I think we've got to come up with examples that I have been involved, not the neighborhood that has been involved. So I completely understand what the size, mass, scale, style, and all those issues. I've been in the system many years, and many of the people do know me, and I am a very big advocate of designing proper projects within the neighborhood. So my goal will be to design a project that fits within the neighborhood, is compatible, and all the neighbors will be happy. As far as the pool being close to the neighbor, that was brought up. I think that's a discussion we can have, but please know that what there is right now, there's an existing building. There's a living quarters, there are people there, there are windows, there's bedrooms, there are other components there that are actually closer, if not at the same point as where the pool is. So the house that we're proposing, it's going to sit back 40 plus feet or an average. So the mass that you're seeing there is going to be substantially further back. So whoever prepared the rendering kind of missed the scale and the level changes in elevations of the grade, that it's a lot lower on the south level, looking up and then going back several feet back and then putting the structure in. So that would be our goal. That would be our challenge, to make everybody visualize and understand what we're seeing and what we think that this is going to be a exceptional project. As far as continuing, I'm not really sure. The documents were submitted months ago. I think the client is being penalized for documents that were not presented. Questions are coming up where it should have come up some time ago. As far as the height or the question of that, if this space is 6 foot or so, what can they use? I mean, if they're going to use it as storing wine, how are they going to live in that space, or how are they going to use that space? So a lot of people are kind of going beyond of understanding what we're proposing and kind of jumping to the conclusion without really asking the questions, listening to the answers, and understanding what is being proposed. So I think we're going to be here. As Harut said, we're welcome to answer any questions, and I don't know when it's going to get continued on. Again, this was a discussion that I had with staff and senior staff months ago in regards to this, but I thought it was answered, but I guess it's not. So,
Thank you very much. With that said, I'd like to repeat, I appreciate everyone's attention, concern regarding this matter, coming in, taking time out of your busy schedules to come in and speak in regards to this very delicate issue in your neighborhood. Again, this conditional use permit is for the use. I know that, there were many comments made regarding whether design review board should be first or whether the conditional use permit should be second or whatnot, the actual procedure. Now, again, I'm just explaining the planning, the community planning department's procedure. Typically, the entitlements come in for the use, and this is not the entitlements for this project. It's just the fact that they are proposing a single-family dwelling. Okay, our zoning code reads a single-family dwelling on a lot that's less than 80 feet in width. That is what the conditional use permit is for. However, they cannot go forward at all with any particular project until the design review board then takes a look at compatibility issues in regards to style, scale, size, and whatnot. So, again, our focus is on the use and the other items contingent upon that. Because we do not have the plans in front of us, I have not seen them, you have not seen them. I think it's only fair for everyone involved, and I appreciate the fact that if there are plans, then it would be very easy to come up and to make duplicate copies, then that we all be given the opportunity to review that before I render a decision on this particular project. I believe that probably 2 weeks is a little bit too little in terms of the time frame for not only staff to make that review complete, but to allow the public as well. So I would entertain the idea of postponing it or continuing this matter for a total of 3 weeks, which would bring it to August the 18th. So this matter will be continued for 3 weeks. Public notices will not be sent out, but we will contact any individual who has sent an email, made a telephone call, and all of you other individuals. We ask that if you like to have a reminder, there are requests to be re-noticed cards that we do have on staff. So I would appreciate, I'm going to take a 5-minute recess after this is concluded. I'll pass out the reminder, the re-noticing cards, and then that way we will send you a re-noticing certificate, for those individuals here present. And that the meeting will be continued, duly noted as such, till August the 18th. Okay. With that said, this does not conclude the public hearing officer meeting. It will continue. There are 2 other items on the agenda, but there will be a 5-minute break.
Mike's on.
Okay, we're back. Let me open the next case. Conditional, it's at 1101 East Chevy Chase Drive, Unit A. It's conditional use permit case number PCUP 2010-017. The applicant is Kaj Barun Shoshanian. The owner is Owen Family Trust Limited Partnership, and the case planner is Rather Duong. And this is an application for a conditional use permit to allow the off-site sales of beer and wine at an existing retail food market located at 1101 East Chevy Chase Drive, Unit A, in the C1 neighborhood commercial zone described as a portion of Lot 35 Watt subdivision. And I have two cards. So I think the first one is representing the applicant, and the other one is an interested party. So let me go first to the case planner, Mr. Combs, and tell me a little bit about the introduction to the case.
Good morning, Mr. Hearing Officer. Please bear with me. I'm going to repeat a little bit what you said.
Okay.
Before you today is conditional use permit case number PCUP 2005-003 at 1101 East Chevy Chase Drive. It's a request for the renewal of an existing conditional use permit to allow off-site sale of packaged beer and wine at an existing retail market located within the C1 Neighborhood Commercial Services Zone. The previous permit expired on June 30th, 2010. The current request for the application for renewal was taken in prior to that expiration date. The existing establishment is at the corner of Adams Street and Chevy Chase Drive in a 2,800 square foot multi-tenant, one-story commercial building constructed in 1965. The market has operated at this location since 1989 and under the current owner for the previous 12 years. The subject retail food market is one of 3 tenants in the building and occupies 1,120 square feet. The other uses on the site include a beauty salon, and a space shared by a wireless phone retailer, and I was recently learned that what I have listed as a check cashing office in the report is an auto leasing agency, which, according to the ZUC, is not allowed to have cars on site, and I've never seen cars on site. The parking lot currently hosts 9 vehicle parking spaces on a site and is accessed from a driveway on Adams Street. Current operating hours for the market are from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Sunday. Zaytoon Market, as it is known, has held a permit to sell beer and wine for the last 5 years and is currently the only off-sale establishment in a census tract where the crime is 13% below the city average. Neither the police department nor neighborhood services noted any concerns when asked about this site or the application. Given the market's track record as a good neighbor, the renewal of the applicant's CUP is not expected to intensify or otherwise contribute to adverse impacts on the surrounding sites. The market is close to several sensitive uses. In addition to residential use, there is also a mini park and a public library, which are located across the street from this business. The library connection at Adams Square was opened in July 2008, and Adams Square Mini Park was opened in November 2007, both after the original CUP to sell beer and wine. Impact on these sensitive uses is reduced through building orientation on the site and existing public infrastructure. The entrance to the market does not directly face any of the surrounding residential buildings. The library is accessed from Park Avenue on the opposite side of the building from the market. While the library and the homes are in close proximity to the market, the lack of reports to the police department and neighborhood services division shows that the negative impacts are unlikely in the future. Additionally, the beer and wine display is not visible from the street, and they are not prominently displayed from inside the market. Since the application does not include any additional floor area or modifications to the existing building, adequate utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures are provided and will be maintained as existing. Overall, the applicant's desire to continue to provide the sale of beer and wine for off-site consumption is a request that appears supportable based on the above facts. Additionally, approval of the CUP would not interfere or impede other development in the surrounding area. This concludes staff's comments. I will be available as will the applicant should you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. So let me call Art Barsegian. I'm assuming you're representing the applicant.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Art Barsegian, and my office is 409 West Broadway, Glendale, California. Unfortunately, the owner is not here, and I am preparing the drawing for the owner for the COP extension for the renew the beer and wine license. If you have any question, I try to respond.
Well, is there anything changing from the way it's been operated recently?
Nothing changed.
Nothing?
No, nothing changed.
Okay. And what are their hours of operation?
It's 8 to 5.
8 to 5?
Yes.
7 days a week?
6 days.
6 days a week. Okay. And as far as the old conditions are concerned, did they have any problems meeting those conditions? I mean, most of them look pretty standard. And including no exterior signs advertising the service of alcoholic beverages be permitted. That probably should have said sales. They don't have any window signs advertising beer or wine, do they?
No.
Okay. And the previous condition said that the floor area devoted to the sale of alcoholic beverages accessible to the public shall not exceed 500 square feet or 25% of the floor area of the store. So they're meeting that.
Nothing changes from that.
Okay. So let's take a look at something real quick. That's a car. I do have a concern with the parking layout, I guess. It looks like there's, based on that 2 or 3 or 4-year-old aerial photo, there's 9 spaces, which is consistent with that plan, except they're not really the same, and it's not consistent with the plan from the prior case. So I guess my question is, in terms of the plan that we have right there, as you can see, it's not exactly the same as that, because this landscaped area here is shown completely on their property, whereas on the aerial photo, it's in the public right-of-way. So I guess my question is that plan actually correct? Because it's not really dimensioned. I don't know what the size of the parking spaces are, and it looks the way it's drawn that this space would have a problem in terms of being blocked in part by that space, if it's really that wide. So it's a little tough to figure out what the parking is supposed to be. And then people are also parking consistently in this area, which is actually the public right-of-way, which they really shouldn't be doing. I mean, other than that, I really don't have any questions that haven't been addressed, because it looks like it's the same operation. But again, I'm not sure that plan is that parking layout is accurate. So, and I don't know what the dimensions are, because if it hasn't changed since that aerial photo was taken.
That's correct. And
yeah, then that's not correct.
Yeah, maybe is the 10 feet is different. 10 feet between.
Right, there was a 10-foot widening, and so the westerly 10 feet is actually public property.
It's public property. Yes.
So you really aren't supposed to have any part of a parking space in the public right-of-way. And it looks like, I mean, people park in that area west of the building, but the other one looks like it's partially striped into the right-of-way. Now, at one time in the past, there was no landscaping. So again, I don't know the whole history of how things got to be that way, but it looks like we need to do something. Now, the property owner is not the applicant, but we may have to put in a condition that they add some landscaping and maybe slightly revise the parking to get the parking spaces out of the public right-of-way, or if the city doesn't need that 10 feet anymore, that they could apply for it through the city engineering department to maybe get the land back. But even if you got it back, there's a 5-foot setback, so you couldn't really park there anyway.
There is no parking space anyway. Only we have 9 parking space.
Yeah, well, there may not be room for 9 parking spaces. Again, I don't know how it got to be that way. I guess you don't know either.
Yeah, I don't probably don't have.
All right, and how many employees do they have at any one time?
Two and
two at one time?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
he's and his wife.
Okay. And let's see. Yeah, most everything's explained in the staff report. Did have some recommended conditions again. Pretty standard. Still got the 500 square foot or 25% of the floor area. Where's the trash for the property? Where's the trash enclosure? Where do they keep it? You got more than one business there. Where is the trash?
The trash area. And then behind it, there's one space. There is there. They have trash.
Where?
But
behind the building?
Behind the building, there is a door.
Yeah. Is there a door in the building?
Yes. There is. Yeah. There is 2 doors.
Somewhere inside the building?
Yeah. And there is. Right now, the trash space is there.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Anything you want to add? I mean, we only have one more card, so, okay, thanks. Margaret Hammond.
Margaret Hammond. I'm a resident of Adams Hill. And I know this business has been there for a long time, but there have been changes in the parking there. And in a way, it's very hard because that's a very congested corner. Now, you know that on the other side of Adams, there's a liquor store that also sells liquor, beer, and wine, okay?
The other side, yeah.
Yes. There's a laundromat.
Okay.
So within less than a block, there's another one. And now, at the Moonlight Cafe, nobody ever brings this up, at the Moonlight Cafe, which is right across the street from the laundromat, they insist on running a banquet hall, which it's supposed to be, excuse me, we're talking, which they insist on using as a banquet hall. It's supposed to be a restaurant, and they sell beer and wine. They got a license. So now we have on 3 corners of that, and guess what? A public library on the 4th corner, where the kids go after school. So within, not across the street, not a block, not nothing. I don't know where your staff are about checking on things like this, but I think something should be looked into that you keep giving out. Last night at City Council on the Quality of Life report that I'm sure you heard about or saw.
No, I haven't heard about it yet.
Well, you better listen to it. And there were 32 liquor licenses given in that in our area of where that whatever number 1 area or whatever, and there was considerable discussion about that there more than a third of the licenses, liquor and beer licenses, are issued in this area as compared to the rest of the city. And as somebody said, well, there must be an awful lot of drunks down there, an awful lot of whatever. Of course, we have terrific congestion. We have 40% of the city lives in that area. But why do we have 3 liquor licenses and a public library on the corner? I am going to be going and talking to somebody over at the clerk's office or something. And nobody bothers to check into that. There's a school a block away and a mini park. But no, in Adams Square, we have 3 liquor licenses, one on each corner of Adams and Chevy Chase. And the 4th corner is the public library.
Do you know if there have been any problems with this
Well,
particular?
sure, there's always problems. Police are always down there. I mean, it's all, I don't
mean,
know.
on
I don't
this
know with that
establishment.
one, I have no idea. They're only open from 8 to 5. But I know there's problems with parking, and I know there's problems with the congestion in the area. So all I'm saying is, I don't know. Somebody is not looking into what's going on. Matter of fact, I'm going to be going right down and discussing one of those things. Because that isn't right. Not at all. I don't know of anywhere else in the city that you have 3 liquor or beer and wine licenses issued and a public library on the corner. I can just imagine if the public library, the central library, had the other 3 corners were had stores where they were had liquor licenses. I think that would be somebody would make a big complaint. But down in Adams Square, it's all right to do that because nobody bothers to pay any attention. So I think it's time somebody had a look at this routine and not have us look like nothing but a bunch of drunks or whatever alcoholics live in that area. So
I think this place was in there before the library.
well, what matter does that make? It's never. I'm not questioning this one in particular. I'm questioning that there are three being given, and on the 4th corner is a public library. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other cards. Anybody else want to speak on this case? Did the applicant, did you want to respond to any of the comments? Make any closing comments? Okay, just come on up again, give your name for the record, and if you wanted to address any of the comments from the previous speaker.
No comments. 25 years they have license. They have beyond 1 license and
Not at this location, but other locations as well?
I don't know. I
don't know?
have any idea about other location.
Okay. All right, so you're not aware of them violating any alcoholic beverage control conditions or anything like that? No police? Yeah, we didn't, James, we didn't have anything negative from the police, did we?
No, police and neighborhood services had no negative comments.
Right, okay, thank you. All right, then I'm going to close this case, take it under submission, and I'll be issuing a decision in writing. See, you have the, is that the
Oh,
file?
I'm sorry. Yes, sir, I do have the files. Yep, pull this one right here for you.
Yeah.
Just for formality purposes, they're the same case, but so that they'll each get a stamp. This is the CUP, so you can see the interior.
Okay, all right.
But it's the same site plan.
site plan.
But this,
Okay.
they only really need a site plan for parking here.
Okay.
So, oh, to the lady, well, here, I'll take it. And also, the main talk, how many minutes does the main speaker get?
15.
You get 15, Rafi, 15. And then you get rebuttal, yes? Yes.
Okay, let me open the next 2 cases. That would be both of them at 1111 South Central Avenue. You've got a conditional use permit, case number PCUP 2010-022, and parking reduction permit, case number PPR 2010-002. The applicant is Anush Davidian. The owner is FIS Enterprises, LLC, and Chris Baxter is the case planner. This is an application for a conditional use permit and a parking reduction permit for a new billiards establishment without providing the required number of parking spaces located at 1111 South Central Avenue in the C3 Commercial Service Zone, Height District 1, described as a portion of Lot 17 Watt subdivision. All right, let me turn to the case planner, Mr. Baxter. Do you have
Yes.
a staff report? Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Kraus. Also, Mr. Kraus, here we have the photographs of the
Okay,
site
thank you.
at, an overhead and some as you know, the project is located at 1111 South Central Avenue. There is an existing medical lab located at that address. It's a 7,000 square foot tenant space. The applicant is proposing to divide that tenant space. I believe it's going to be around 5,000 square feet for the billiard hall, and the remainder being the lab. Now, the existing property is located in a shopping center on South Central, and the shopping center has a cross street. The closest one is Chevy Chase. And the shopping center consists of commercial uses, and there are a couple of residential uses as you look at the site plan on the upper left-hand corner. They've been there since, I believe, the 60s. There was a administrative exception for a medical office in 2001, and the parking lot design and layout was accepted at that time for the entire shopping center, and the applicant has submitted that version here before us, and this is the version that had been approved. The surrounding area, in terms of zoning, this particular property is in the C3 zone, which is our commercial shopping district. There are, to the north of it, commercial C3 zone, and just a little bit to the left of that on Chevy Chase is a multifamily zone, R2250. Same thing applies to the south of this property, C3 zone, multifamily. To the east is a South Branch specific plan, and there's a commercial neighborhood zone and a commercial general zone. They're basically a C3 type uses over there. And to the west, immediately to the west, on the westerly property line, is a multifamily zone. And I believe along that entire property line, it is the back sides of a building. There's no openings, so I believe those are the garages over there. We had comments from other city departments. Really the two that, actually I'll use three of them. Two of them here, though. Neighborhood Services had stated there's concerns about parking spaces, complaints about lack of in that area. The applicant did submit, as part of their parking reduction permit, a parking analysis showing that when the billiards hall opens at 6 p.m., 7 days a week, the other commercial uses on the site, I guess the majority of them will have closing hours by 5 or 6 o'clock, and as a result would open up all those extra parking spaces for the applicant, who at this point needs 7 parking spaces. So there'll be more than that. By 6 o'clock each evening, as about 5 of the tenant spaces in the shopping center closed down. Maybe 6. The traffic engineering looked at the information submitted by the applicant, and they said, this it actually does work. It makes sense, and it works to show that there'll be less parking. There'll be parking available because when this place opens, the other places will be closed, or a majority of them will. And I believe the last tenant closing on the site is at 8 o'clock, and so there'll be no competition after 8 o'clock until 12 o'clock for the billiards place. We have our pretty much does our analysis on this. There were, staff wanted to point out that in the land use element, in terms of consistency, I guess I could just wrap that up in the findings. We can
Okay.
go real quick on the findings on this. For the CUP findings, the first comment is about the consistent with the objectives of the general plan and its various elements. And the land use element does encourage the full range and types of services and facilities. A billiards facility is an allowed use subject to a conditional use permit, so that is listed in the zoning code, which is an implementation tool of the land use element. As far as the billiards facility not being a detriment to the health and safety of the neighborhood, though the neighborhood services section had concerns with parking, traffic engineering was able to comment that the parking would be acceptable because of the information submitted by the applicant showing that there would be available parking during the time that they are open. The police department did not have any comments that were negative on the project as well. Other city departments did not have any comments that would show that a billiards place would be a problem in the area. As far as the use and facilities being adversely affected or conflict with adjacent uses, again, the general plan addresses compatibility. A billiards hall is listed as a use subject to the CUP. It will be compatible, particularly in this case because it is a recreation retail type establishment. There will be a small ancillary food service if you look on their floor plan, but it will not be a destination place. It will be supportive to the billiards establishment. And the project will have conditions of approval should it be approved that would ensure that it would not be a nuisance in the area in terms of smoking or noise. And of course, the project is located in an area where there are adequate public and private facilities. It's been around since 1960s. When we look at and then we have a listing of our conditions there. We look at our parking reduction. We have 3 points that staff commented on. The billiards establishment is classified as a recreational retail use in the zoning code. And as far as parking reduction is concerned, it requires a one space for every 250 square feet. Traffic engineering we did review, as noted in the CUP discussion I just had, that with the closing of the other retail commercial uses in the shopping center, there'll be plenty of spaces left over. And the intent of the parking regulations would be met consistent with the city codes and the circulation element. Again, the shared parking information submitted by the applicant was fairly strong to show that there's a highly unlikely chance that there will be competition for parking in that area based on that analysis. It was fairly clear, and it's pretty simple. It's actually quite simply done, but it actually tells a good story that by 6 o'clock every evening when this place opens up, the majority of the tenant spaces will be closed, which frees up actually a majority of the parking spaces. And they only needed 7 additional ones anyway. There'll be way more than 7 left over. Finally, the last comment is that sufficient parking will be provided, and I think I've addressed that pretty much kind of redundant based on that little study.
Right, based on the hours of operation.
Based on the hours of operation as well.
Today, okay.
And then the noise ordinance accommodates the issues of any noise, and we have our conditions. And as stated in the staff report, the city has continuing jurisdiction over these cases, so that if there are problems, we can go out and investigate and, in a worst-case scenario, revoke the approval. That pretty much concludes everything here.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Baxter. Let me call the applicant, Anush. Is it Davtian?
Mr. Kraus, could I just mention something?
Sure, go ahead.
I don't, the main thing is this: which one of you is going to be doing the primary speaking? Then, okay, just to let you know, Mr. Kraus.
Well, who's
who,
Mr. Nazarian? Okay, well then you're, okay, because the main speaker gets a little more time, so are you going to be the
I'm going to
main?
be the main speaker.
Okay.
I will present the case.
Okay, so you're Rafi Nazarian?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Identify yourself for the record and tell me why these two applications should be approved, and tell me how this whole business is going to operate.
Yeah, my name is Rafi Nazarian. I'm representing CPAN Architectural Design Firm. I'm the architect of the project. I've been working on this project for almost a year and a half now. One of the main reasons we really wanted to apply for the change of use here, because recently medical labs, especially with this economy, they don't need that much space. And in fact, this space really wasn't used as a medical lab that much. It's like one part of it, which is still existing lab, was always used as a medical lab. So this space was always vacant and not used. So that was we planned to use it somehow. And the proposal was a billiard place as a recreational establishment, non-alcoholic, of course, just to fit the property owners and business owners' requirements and needs. We designed that billiard space as you see in the plans. The issue came up first. The change of use we knew we can apply, and hopefully the city would help us to approve that change of use, because we don't see any reason which this new establishment will be have negative impact in any citizen of Glendale or neighborhood. And the plan also includes a lot of improvements, a lot of opening of job opportunity. As a building, we have already engineered plans for reinforcing the building, the ceiling, and a lot of work. So it's also a positive thing. And besides, we'll open some job opportunities for people also, because really last 5 years this space was vacant and not used. If I go over the findings, in fact, how will we propose use of consistent with various elements are objective to the general plan. As Mr. Baxter explained everything, actually, I won't take your time that much. The general plan supports the billiard place as a recreational, healthy, and mostly used comfort for people. And besides, many people, they can have the luxury of discomfort within walking distance, because there are apartment buildings a little further from that property, which I personally talked to some people. They said, oh yes, it's going to be nice if we have a billiard place here, we can even walk to that place. So the finding number B, second one, is why will proposed use and its associated structure and facilities not be detrimental to the public health. Of course, we will stay within the guidelines of the Department of Health, and we meet all the requirements, especially when we have a little kitchen and food for the clients all there. And one of the plans, which is not even in the conditions by staff, but we're still willing to do that, have licensed security in the parking lot, especially to ensure that people won't hang out in the parking lot. They're not going to disturb neighbors, if there are any, and ensure that discipline will be respected. The number 3, why will the proposed use and facilities not adversely affect or conflict of adjacent use? Import normal development of surrounding properties. The surrounding properties are business establishments which are located in the same whole lot. They are closed after 6 o'clock, and most of them, and we don't have to worry about that because we won't be competing with them. And in any case, we can't even directly be bothering them in their business or their operations. And number 4 is explain how adequate public and private facilities such as utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measured or will be provided. The nature of this property is huge land, and there are small buildings and big parking space. One of the good benefits we have is 3 entrance and exits to the parking space from the 3 different sides, and it's hugely beneficial because there is no way we see any conflict or impact in the parking lot during entering and exiting the parking space for the cars. And the report from the traffic engineers also approves that, and this is a fairly good condition for that kind of conflict. And besides, the lot is located in the 2 major, 1 major and 1 minor streets, which is also another beneficial option. People can use the minor street if they need during the traffic time, or the major if they need during the less traffic time. So the conditions looks fairly beneficial for everybody, and we would really appreciate the city and staff and you if you help us to approve the project, which will bring a lot of good to our neighborhood and surrounding businesses too.
Okay, have you looked at the staff report that Mr.
Yes.
Baxter prepared and looked at the draft conditions for each application?
Yes, we are willing to cooperate and meet all the conditions required by city staff, and of course we're going to meet all the codes and requirements.
Let me ask you a few questions. The parking layout that you've shown on that plan, is the parking lot striped exactly like that plan right now?
Yes, because a few years ago, this dental office, they had to apply for parking reduction, and they had to go through this, and they striped it.
But we sometimes get applicants that get things approved and then they don't make the changes, or
They did
make
the changes and it's approved.
So it does look exactly like that
Yes.
now. Okay.
There is a copy of that project approved and inspected and approved, and
Okay.
Mr. Baxter has that copy also. Files.
Are the restrooms, the men's and women's restrooms shown on that plan, are they there right now?
They're there right now. They are not adequate. They don't meet the handicap facility. They're not good, but the plan you see is the proposal for that improvement, which is
Right,
part
but
of
I mean,
it.
are there restrooms that size there right now?
The overall size is that much, but we are going to redesign it and use that little storage on the side, including into the restroom. So we have fair amount of restrooms, and they meet the accessibility codes.
So the restrooms, the medical lab people can use the restrooms as well?
Yeah, the way we designed this, there is a common hallway in the back, so they
Right.
can use that too,
Okay.
if they need.
Okay, and it looks like in the front, all you're changing is changing the window to a door.
Yes, because we want to have them. There was a little foyer. We laminate that foyer on the side so they can have separate entrance to the street.
Can I see through the glass into the inside right now?
Inside, what?
Well, if I mean, you've got existing glass. Is it really darkly tinted, or can I actually see inside?
It's darkly tinted now, but it's not the whole portion because the majority, if there is a elevation on the bottom.
I don't know whether I can really see inside there or not.
Oh, it's pretty high. I mean, the windows are pretty high, and there are some landscape in front of them. You really don't see that much inside. But if we need, we can tint the glass. It's a concern.
Well, no, sometimes it's more the other way around. Sometimes we like people to be able to see inside.
We
on
want
some
that
of these
too.
places.
If it's a condition, we can change the windows.
Okay, I don't know yet. Just depends on the location whether or not that's a factor.
We are open to any.
You're not going to serve any alcohol. There's no plans for serving any alcohol.
Not really, no.
Okay. How many seats are you proposing? Because you've got a kitchen there.
We don't want to really have people sitting there because the main concept is billiard. They have to play billiard. If they sit there, eat, and it's going to become a restaurant. We don't want that. We don't have that menu. We don't have the staff for that, working for that. We don't have that plan. We want to have some people waiting. They can hang on the bar, just standing, have some snacks.
Okay.
And the minimum seat like 8.
Right. So it looks like you've got 7 on the plan.
Yeah,
so
not
8's
more
the
than
most.
8, yeah.
Okay, 8's the most you could have. So you need to be really careful about that.
Yeah, we don't want to turn this to a restaurant. We don't need that. It's not going to work anyway,
Okay.
business-wise.
And then the hours of operation, according to your application, are 6 p.m. to midnight.
Yes, to midnight.
Okay, 7 days a week.
7 days a week, yes. If you see, like, Mondays is very, very dead, you may close one day.
Okay,
Yes,
but that would be the maximum.
Maximum, yeah, you want to go.
Again, if
beyond.
this does get approved, those hours of operation will be probably that.
Oh, yes, of course.
So, if they're wanting to open for lunch on weekdays or weekends, they're not going to be able to do it if
No,
there's
no
a
lunch at all.
condition that... Okay.
There is no way. We don't want to turn this to a restaurant.
Where's the trash facilities for this whole property right now? Are there any?
There are, every individual business, they have one in the back parking corners. There are a lot of corners in the parking lot. It's not like the whole space is 100% designated as a parking space.
Okay,
There are a
they're
lot of corners, a lot of like walkways around it.
And so they're keeping the trash in those areas outside the parking? Okay. So there's no one big trash area?
No, it's just a
everybody's
small
got
ones,
their
everybody.
little... Okay. Okay, I don't have any further questions right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Call the next speaker then. I don't know who wants to go next. Anush, do you want to go next? Or who?
George Paulson.
George, okay.
My name is George Paulson. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Do you need an address?
I've got it on your card.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
That's fine.
I am a California licensed real estate broker. I'm also the property manager of the subject property. I represent the owners, and of course, we are in support of the project. Due to the nature of the property, I know Rafi had mentioned about that this is a large parcel that's approximately 54,000 square feet of C3 zoned land, and the low density of buildings on it, about 21,000 square feet of retail space. And the buildings, as you can see on the property here, that they are all located along Central Avenue, so you have a parking lot located behind all the buildings up front. So really the parking lot is hidden to the rear, and due to that, and most of our tenants are service-oriented tenants, where we happen to have a cash checking place, a dentist, a CPA, an MRI, a doctor. They're all out of there between 5 and 6 o'clock. And due to that during the later hours, there are strangers, vagrants, homeless individuals that enter our rear parking lot, and a lot of use of illicit activities go on back there. Bringing this type of tenant into the property, which is a billiards, that they're going to be staying open to the later hours, will definitely be a positive control of those adverse activities during the evening hours. And having a sports game billiard use that is compatible to the surrounding area of the commercial and residential uses that is advantageous to the neighborhood, providing recreational facilities to them, I think is a positive thing for the neighborhood. And of course, we hereby recommend approval of the project.
Okay.
Have any questions of me?
Let's see. So two of the one building has two apartment units in it. So where
That's correct.
Those people just park anywhere they want, right? Is that
They happen to have
they have a sign
that are designated, yes.
Okay.
Tenant just for them, reserved for residential.
right near the building?
Correct.
Okay.
Right to the rear, just off of the building itself.
Okay. But those are two of these spaces that are they just happen to be marked for the
Correct.
tenants. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Okay. All right. I don't have any more questions. Thank
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Now, Anush. Again, identify yourself for the record.
Good afternoon. I'm Anush Davchan. I'm United States citizen, and my profession is a planner.
And could you speak into the microphone, please?
I'm economist, and all my life, my father has a culture center in my country, and now I have to do some open, beautiful culture center in Glendale for the people. Only I have to do good things for the people. They come and enjoy there.
Okay. What kind of food are you going to offer?
It's going to be as sandwiches.
Sandwiches?
Sandwiches, yeah.
Okay.
Nuts and no alcohol.
No alcohol. Are you going to have like TV screens?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
What else? Any contests? In other words, you're going to have competitions there, or is it just walk-in?
No, I don't think so.
No
I think
competitions?
no.
Okay.
It's going to be beautiful culture center only.
Okay. And the back door is going to remain open?
Yeah, it has to be open.
Okay. Okay, do you know what kind of signs you're going to be proposing yet?
It has to be beautiful signs.
Well, I mean, you have to be careful because you've got some windows. We do have some sign regulations, so you have to be careful that no banners advertising specials or anything like that, no portable signs. You get a wall sign, you get some window signs, but you have to be very careful that you follow the sign regulations and don't put out some of these things that sometimes you see other people doing. Okay? All right, I don't have any more questions. I think the rest have been answered. Thank you. Yeah, Margaret Hammond, I think you're next.
My name is Margaret Hammond, and I'm a resident of the area. Number one, I would like to know how much occupancy is going to be allowed. What age? Is there going to be age limits or requirements? Is there going to be smoking allowed in this building? And who will control when people come and go, that there isn't smoking in the parking lot? Because what about the nearby residents? And also, don't forget that this, right now, everything they say closes at 8 o'clock, the buildings. This is going to be open from 7 to 12, and what are they going to do at 12? How late are the hangers-on going to be out there? Somebody needs to talk up for the nearby residents on this thing. And I don't know that there has been any discussion with anybody. Has anybody gone there and gone around to those multi-housing apartments to discuss this with them, what they're going to be looking at here? And right now, yeah, it's a restaurant. How much of a kitchen is there going to be? They are only going to serve sandwiches. Are there going to be cooking facilities? Is a permit required for the food here? And they're saying they're going to have sports games. That's when there are TVs with sports games on. There's competition, and people, are into competition. I know my own grandson, when he goes to a billiard place that's somewhere over in South Glendale there. And also, I know they're saying right now, no beer, wine, liquor, but are they going to allow it in the premises if people bring it in? Who is going to
Well,
make
we
sure that
don't.
doesn't?
Yeah, we don't allow that anyway.
Well,
They have
okay,
a
I just
seat.
want to find out.
Okay.
And the signage you've already addressed. The restrooms are going to be enlarged because how much occupancy is there going to be if the restrooms are presently being used by other businesses? I understood CPA, medical, check cashing. I don't know how many businesses are there right now. 5,000 square feet is a pretty large area for a billiard hall. And the trash, again, I think could be I'm going to go over and have a look at the area for sure. I can't quite place it where it is. And I am going to be looking at the closeness of the multifamily apartments to that parking area, and because at night, they get out at 12 o'clock at night, if they're there till 12 o'clock, and young people love to stay up late. What about those people that right now are enjoying, what about their quality of life? How is it going to be affected? I think this is we did a report that cost us all kinds of money and whatnot for a quality of life report, and isn't this a quality of life problem? Could be. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that's the last speaker card we have. So who's the best person to maybe address some of the concerns of the previous speaker? You want me to have the architect to probably address some of that? Again,
Yes.
please identify yourself again.
I'm Rafi Nazarian, architect of the case again.
Okay.
One-
Let's say the maximum occupancy. Do you know what that's going to be? I mean, you've got the billiard tables laid out there. Obviously, there's only so much you can do, but
Yes.
in terms of the building code or fire code, what is the actual maximum occupancy going
In
to be?
fact, because the billiard tables, they take a lot of space, there are not that much occupancy load to be concerned about. It's not like cafe or restaurant.
Right, but I mean, what is the number going to be
I don't have
officially?
the exact number. We didn't do it at analysis, but it would be a lot less than regular, other businesses.
But you don't know what the actual, you haven't calculated the actual number yet.
We never did, we didn't need that for now because we didn't apply for building permit yet.
Right.
But in my top of my head, I can say, I believe like 50, 60, 70.
Okay.
At most.
What about the age limit? That's more the operator's thing. Are you aware of, are they going to restrict it? I mean, there's no alcohol here. Are they going to restrict it to 21 and over, 18 and over, or no age limit?
Well, really, we never thought about that, really, but when there is no alcohol served, everybody has a right to come in. And we
Right.
cannot,
I mean, but is the operator planning on limiting it or not?
If we have any comments from the city, any limitation, we will respect that limitation.
Mr. Krause?
Age limitation.
Mr. Baxter?
I believe the Glendale Municipal Code limits it to 18.
I believe you might be correct.
So I'm believing that the way the code reads is that persons less than 18 can't come in unless they're with I believe, a parent or a guardian.
Something like that.
They
Okay.
can't come in with an older friend. It has to be literally, I think, a parent or guardian. So we want to check on that.
We will definitely respect that, put signs, and make sure the security people, they check everybody coming in and out.
That brings us to the last sort of multiple issue about security and smoking. Obviously, we don't allow smoking except under certain conditions in the Glendale Municipal Code. And so you did mention you were going to have security.
Yes, we really want, for the nature of our business, to make sure that business operates right and people are happy.
Are you going to have like a uniformed private security guard?
Really, yes, licensed security guard. To ensure the discipline is respected. Besides, for the smoking, there are many, many businesses around retail, because billiard is a retail space.
Right.
And nobody has even right to be concerned about smoking. It's retail, but
I think the concern is not so much inside, but you know, they go outside and smoke in an undesignated area, and that's what we don't want.
okay, there is a wide sidewalk, 20 feet wide sidewalk, the central side. It's a lot of space, and whoever wants to smoke, they can go to a street and smoke. Our security guard will prevent them to going to the parking lot, hanging onto the parking lot, and no smoking or even hanging out in the parking lot. So Central Avenue is wide, has wide sidewalk, and everybody has the right to go to sidewalk and smoke.
Okay, and I had one other question. The westerly barrier there, is it all the back wall of
Yes,
the
sir.
garages?
Back wall.
There's no separate garden wall?
No, it's just, it's solid 8
It's the
foot wall.
solid wall of the garages
Yes, yes.
next door? Okay.
Next door, and besides, the other side of the wall, the neighboring property is just parkings or storage. There is not apartments. The building all along you see with the property line is not apartments.
Okay. Well,
Storage.
you might have some right near Chevy Chase that looks like it might be some apartments close to the other apartment.
Very, yes, small portion.
Yeah, but the rest of it looks like all
The lower
garages.
side, yes, there's storage and parkings.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you want to add at this time?
And what I'm going to add is there are many other billiard facilities.
Okay.
They even sell alcoholic beverages. And the parkings are in the back of the building, adjacent with apartments and residentials. And so far, I researched, there are no reports of kind of negative cases happened during the last years around. There are billiard places on Brand Boulevard, on the top of, the north side of Central Boulevard. The Americano has a lot of activities there. We have never seen anything, any complaints, anyone to be concerned even about that. And I don't...
So you check with our police department?
Yes. I have even checked the Charles Billiard Place in Glendale.
Okay. All right.
They had even filed for some variances a couple of years ago, and I was even here in the hearing. And they were approved because, even they sell alcohol. We had no concern. Luckily, people of Glendale are very polite and nice.
Yeah, on the alcohol part, you're not asking for alcohol
No,
now,
we are
and
not
we're
asking
not
any.
granting it. I just,
Yeah.
if in the future they decide business needs to be better and they need alcohol, that you should never count on that.
No, we don't.
Should, could be approved, but you should never count on that.
Of course.
Okay? If this is approved. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I'm going to close this, actually these two cases, take them under submission. I'll be issuing a decision in writing. And it's approximately 12:30, and we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.